What's up, y'all? So we're back, and I gotta ask you a question. Do your profit margins suck? Now, if you answer yes to this, then I encourage you to stick around and watch this video, because today we're gonna talk about just that. We are going to dive into a real life case study. A real life case study. None of that fake stuff, none of that simulated stuff. We're going to talk about a business that was struggling with profit margins and what steps they took to get things on track. Because the reality is, a lot of people really just don't understand. I get asked all the time, and a lot of people just don't understand the true benefit of analytics. And I get it. It is not something that you can touch. It's not necessarily an actual product that's delivered to you and you can see the amount of money that comes from it. You will see it when you really start using it. You will see it. But I realize that most business owners really do not understand how valuable analytics is, and they also, if they do, they don't even realize that they're using it. You know what I mean? They have no idea. For example, if you use, say, let's say that you're on Shopify or something and you're selling t-shirts or whatever the case may be. You go and you look at your sales, right? And there's usually see just numbers in general, right? But then sometimes you can go and click some reports and you can see how you've been trending over time. You can do the same thing on Amazon, all of those. These are analytics, guys. These are analytics, okay? But it's about how you use them to help you. If you're just looking at the numbers and you're not actually taking anything out of it, you're not generating any insights, you're not really taking advantage of analytics for your business. So again, we're going to get into a case study that'll show you how this business struggling with profit margins was able to change those things around. So let me paint the picture. So this is one of the oldest and largest shoe manufacturers in India, and they have a presence in many retail stores in that country, as well as, you know, presence on e-commerce platforms, right? Like your Amazons and things of that sort. So here comes the challenge, right? So they're selling on these e-commerce platforms as well as in stores. And you got to remember, if this is one of the oldest shoe manufacturers, they weren't always online. So when they started selling online, okay, now you got all these different sources. And what they came to realize is that really, because they couldn't really keep track of the online and the offline sources of sales, right? There was a lot of products that they weren't even making any profit margins on. There was no profit margin. So they set out to figure out, how can we solve this problem, right? And I have to say this. There's no way that you solve this problem without looking at some numbers. I want you to tell me that you can solve this problem without looking at some numbers. Because the first thing is, you don't really understand where you're at. So how can you say you solve something if you don't know where you're at? You need numbers, right? And so therefore, the next thing is, what am I focusing on? If you're not looking at the numbers and you don't understand them, you do not know what to focus on, and you're simply guessing. And if you want to talk about guessing, go back to my first video, because guessing does not make decisions. And, you know, the decision makers, the stakeholders in that business, they want to know what they need to do in order to be profitable and to keep that business running and to keep everybody employed, right? So in order to do that, we need to have good data. So that's where this whole thing started. You know, they seeked out a analytics team to help support them. And that's how they got on their journey to really being more profitable. So what did that look like? So really the goal was to bring everything into a central location, right? So that the decision makers had everything that they needed. Now, you got to remember, we have got different data sources. We've got offline sales, we got online sales. So we've got to bring everything we have into this central location. And the best way to do that would be, you know, some way to automate that process if you can, right? but also the different calculations, right? Because you need to be able to understand your pricing, calculate the margins, understanding inventories. So all of these different things, set this up so it's as simple as possible for you to use on a regular basis. With my experience, one of the biggest issues with businesses is them not even using the analytics that they set up. And the thing I think is, if we're not using it, that means that we really haven't defined what our KPIs are. So we need to understand what the KPIs are. Everybody needs to agree on that. And then we're going to focus all of our dashboards around those KPIs and the things that we truly need to work on in order to, make our business profitable. So one of the first things that happened when they started bringing these dashboards together, they realized there was a lot of inconsistencies in the data. And that's one of the first things you got to do, right? You got to clean up your data, because the answers that you get are only going to be as good as the data that you have in front of you. So that was the first thing, was cleaning up the data. The next, of course, was finalizing the KPIs like we talked about, making sure that everybody agrees on that. Then designing dashboards that everybody is aligned with and that they're going to use. And then, of course, this is something that continues to change over time, but you want to analyze the effectiveness of these dashboards. So this is what this team came up with, okay? So first was inventory analysis. So this allowed them to review the different products, understand their stock levels, and ensure that things that are really selling, make sure they never go out of stock, right? Just imagine that you have high demand and you can't keep up with it. And it isn't because from a manufacturing standpoint you can't keep up with it. It's because you don't even realize that you're going low. There's nothing worse than, having people that want to buy a product and you not being able to fulfill that. A lot of times, if there's competitors that have, that they have comparable items, you're going to lose your customer that way, right? Because if yours is not accessible, I'm gonna go find it where it is. So inventory analysis. The next was product pricing. So you got to remember, you got all these different sources, all these different platforms that you're using. So they really needed to understand, for a given product, how was the pricing varying from source to source, right? So understanding how that was varying, as well as gaps in the inventory, right? So, maybe I have a ton of inventory over here and I don't need it there. There's another source where this product is doing really well. The inventory needs to be supplied there. The next is product performance. And I know this is one that everybody understands, right? So looking at all of your different products and seeing the different trends. Is this product selling more during certain times of the year? Is there some kind of seasonality going on? With things like that, you can start to really plan your inventory, or maybe you even sunset some products, right? Maybe it's not even worth it, but you're able to look at the different trends in the products that you have so that you can make better decisions. Inventory is money, guys. If your money is tied up in inventory, I promise you're making a big mistake. Only carry what's necessary, right? Only carry what's necessary, because that cash can be used for other things. That cash can be used to grow your business. That cash could be used to spend more on ads, for example. But if you've got it tied up in inventory that might not sell for another 6 months, that is money that is really lost. And it doesn't seem like it, but it is. It's lost. And heck, inflation is crazy. So you want to make sure that inventory levels are ideal. And that's what they did. Next was P&L, profit and loss. So understanding from all these different avenues, what are my losses from my wholesalers, from the product itself, maybe, if you're talking about Amazon selling fees, things of that sort. So understanding the profit and loss. Now, bringing all of these things into one central location, I hope you can see how someone can quickly make decisions on what is necessary for their business. Right? With implementing these analytics, they were really able to simplify tracking of their inventory. They were able to understand trends, understand, what adjustments they need to make to pricing, forecasting, right? Also figuring out what locations may be selling more than others, what type of marketing should I be pushing based off of the sales data that I have. I mean, so many things came out of them implementing analytics that were really meaningful. So I encourage you, if your profit margins suck, I need you to go and start pulling together some data. And if you can't do that, then you need to figure out how you can put something in place where you actually have numbers that you can start to look at. So with that being said, I appreciate you for tuning in. I hope that you got value out of this, and I will see you in the next video. All right.